Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I'm a researcher, as it says there in my banner, a chief researcher for MRO Global. That's my company. And I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So what I'm looking for is, how can I slow down something I don't want? How can I speed up something I want? And I specialize primarily in age-related disease, longevity. That's what I write about. That's what I speak about. Okay, that's a little bit about me. Now, today on the Wise Ones, I have a very good friend of mine I've known for, at least a dozen years, I'm sure. And his name is Jeff Klein. He lives in Texas here, a few hours away, not very far. And I've known him, I guess, since I've been retired. I retired in 2007. And we've bumped into each other periodically at networking events and speaking events. And anyway, so Jeff, please join me up here on stage.
Howdy, Red.
Howdy. I'm glad you got the howdy in there. We keep this thing in the Texas vernacular. You are a speaker, an author, a speaking coach, an entrepreneur, a networker. You're a number of different things. But before you became all that, give us a little bit about your background so you'll know kind of where you came from and then how you evolved into what we're doing today.
Sure. I was the kid of what we call a Jewish professional. My dad worked for nonprofit organizations. He was a social worker by training, but by trade he worked at nonprofits like B'nai B'rith Youth Organization and Jewish Federation, helping the community and raising money for different organizations like that. So I grew up with the giving attitude and servant leader kind of before I knew what there was a title for that. That was the household I grew up in, and mom and dad met at social work school. And I went into the movie business right out of college. And when we met, I had just closed my advertising agency, which was the business I opened right after my movie career. And then we had just opened up Houston for Speaker Co-op in 2010. We decided to start having our Speaker Co-op lunch, and we were doing it in Dallas for 4 years. And we expanded into Houston, and that's where we met when we were doing that, because advertising led me to speaking, and we had just shut down the ad agency in 2010 after 10 years of helping folks grow their businesses through all kinds of advertising, and the speaking became my calling, and and then the speaker coaching grew out of that. And so we're still doing that today, helping folks use speaking to get business. And so I've got lots of experience with nonprofits. I spent a few years running the Texas Film Association. So I learned about association management, which is another kind of nonprofit. And so I have a wide and shallow experience in a lot of different things. And that helps me it helps me work with lots of different kinds of speakers. So my passion is around helping people be more tolerant and making the world a better place by helping other people make the world a better place.
Well, I remember some of our very first conversations when you were down here visiting Houston for the lunches. And one of the, I think, primary focuses at that time was what was called the elevator speech. that 30 seconds of how do I know that I want to do business with you? And why don't we segue into I just walk on an elevator and here you are by yourself. Here I am. I know I have at least 30 seconds that it's going to take me to get up to the 8th floor. What is an elevator speech? Why is it important? How should it be structured?
Sure.
Give me a little bit of education on elevator speeches.
Thank you for that. The elevator pitch is how I became a speaker, by teaching that. There's a couple of different kinds of elevator pitch. Obviously, the one in an elevator that you ask about, your purpose there is to get the business card of the other person in the elevator. So you want to talk to them about what you do in a way that is interesting enough for them to want to share their business card. And you actually want to ask for their business card. Tell them what you want and why. You'd like to be able to talk to them further when you have more time, by telling them something you do that helps other people, and by telling them the problem you solve and who you solve it for. And then, could I have your card so that we could talk more about it when we have more time than between the 1st floor and the 8th floor?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. You're a problem solver, but you're not selling them anything. And
right.
that sales flag goes up, and all of a sudden we kind of back off a little bit. I'm not interested. Don't tell me anything. And so it's kind of a hard sell, so to speak, in order to say, I am not selling you something, but I might in the future if you have a problem that I can solve. So there's a narrow window psychologically of where you can reach somebody. And I think you do an exceptionally good job in the structure that you work with people to say, this is what you really need to do in a 30-second opportunity. So tell us about what are the things you do and don't do.
Well, and let me just go for a little bit further on the elevator pitch. When you're not in an elevator, when you're at a traditional networking group, like a business networking or a chamber of commerce, the purpose for your elevator pitch is to get introduced to somebody from outside the room. So it's a different purpose when you're in that situation. And then there's also people who use the elevator pitch for fundraising, venture capital, things like that. And in that situation, you're looking to meet a donor or a volunteer, again, a person outside the room. It's usually you're not using your elevator pitch, and too many people do this. I hate to be as harsh as to say incorrectly, but they could use it better. You don't need to do an elevator pitch to meet people who are already in the room. The purpose is to meet people from outside the room. Networking is all about meeting people that the people in the room know who aren't in attendance, not to the people in the room you can meet because you're there in the room. So anyway, thanks. And so beyond that, the other things I'm involved in, I started teaching the elevator pitch from the front of the room as a speaker. And every time I did, somebody else in the room said, hey, would you come teach us at my other group? And that's how I became a speaker, because before I knew it, as I was doing that back in 2004 to begin with, I wound up doing it a few times a month. And then I got intentional about getting in front of audiences as a speaker and as the expert, and teaching people that when you're the expert in front of the room, and by being put in front of the room, you become the expert as a brand. And the expert in front of the room is listened to and paid attention to. And when you show the people in the room that you are an expert who solves problems for them, they will hire you to solve those problems. And that's the path of speaking that leads to business for your company.
When you expanded into being an entrepreneur and you formed Speakers Co-op, that was 20 years ago, I'm guessing.
Right. We just had our 200th third Friday meeting last month.
Interrupted very minorly by COVID, but still the same.
Yeah, we never stopped meeting. We just went to Zoom.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Speaker Co-op and what they offer, and then I want to get into networking. So tell us,
Sure.
Why would somebody be interested in Speakers Co-op, and how would they reach you there?
You bet. So the website is pretty easy, speakercoop.com, no hyphen. We started as a networking lunch for people who were speaking from all different aspects, everything from people who are professional public speakers as their job to people like you and me who were speaking to further their business. I was speaking as an ad agency guy at the time when I started, and you were speaking to sell your health books and get clients to help with their health. Then we just started, 2 or 3 months into that meeting, somebody said, "Hey, we need a website. Jeff, you do websites, right?" So speakercoop.com was born, and it is now an international online directory of speakers for all kinds of meeting planners to use to find speakers, experts, entertainers for their events. So it's everything from the expert on the climate to the expert on leadership, team building, you name it. And they search for those speakers by topic and by topic area and category. So if it's a business meeting, there's one section of the website. If it's a non-business meeting, there's another section, and there's categories under that. And of course, they can always search just by keyword. So if they know they're looking for you, they can just type in red and get your profile right away. And then they contact that speaker directly, and we don't get in the way. We're not an agency or a bureau, so we don't get a commission from the speaker or anything like that. The speaker pays a membership fee, and the meeting planner doesn't pay us at all.
Okay, so you have two different clients that I'm looking at. One who is a speaker who wants to be known and selected and have my name and bio, et cetera, available on that website so somebody can find me. And then another part of it is the person who needs a speaker on space travel to Mars in the next 30 years or whatever. You can be able to find a topic that fits the need of your organization, and they contact that speaker directly. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly. And the meeting planners, they range everywhere from a certified meeting professional who's got letters after their name and works for a Fortune 100 company, all the way to that guy or gal who was voluntold it's their turn to get the next speaker for their lunch meeting.
Okay. Networking, that's an interesting thing. Prior to COVID, it was pretty standard way of doing things. COVID kind of introduced the virtual networking environment. And we have a thing here, it's 100, 150 people show up every Friday morning in person, and they use this instead of business card. And they go to LinkedIn and they slap it against each other, and boom, they transfer their LinkedIn contact. But all of a sudden I get back home. Who did I meet today? I have no idea in the world, because there was no way for me to segregate the people today versus everyone else I had. So the second time I went there, I said, okay, fine, Jeff, I send you a LinkedIn message right now after I meet you, that now I know I met you today. I can go into my messages and okay, that's who speaking opportunity. So I put that in as a little note. So are you finding in networking this to be an anomaly, or is this becoming a more of a trend?
The phone connection thing, yeah, I mean, what I find, and some people aren't even, like you say, they're not even carrying business cards anymore, and I'm against that. I think we still need business cards in large part so we can take notes and remind ourselves why we met somebody or why we want to get in touch with them again more than anything else. Sometimes there's too much focus on business cards. So in other words, when you go to a networking event, the person who collects the most business cards is not the winner. but you want to collect business cards from a couple of people that you make a real connection with, so that you want to meet with again. And that's, to me, the value of the business card, because I can write on it. I mean, sometimes, and you can't see who this is, but you can see that I can't write on this business card because it's just there's way too much on it. But your business card should have somewhere people can take notes, and it should be matte finish, not glossy, so you can write on it with a normal pen. But I think I try to buck trends, Del, and some people have that metal they have one business card that they hold on your phone, and it transmits their information there. But like you said, how do I figure out of my 1,300 contacts which one is yours? I don't know, because my phone doesn't tell me who the latest contact is. It doesn't let me search that way. So I think there's really a place for us to still be a little bit analog in our digital world for those purposes. But sometimes you have to figure out workarounds like you've done to send those little notes. You can, in a contact, put anything you want in the description notes. So you might have to put the date that you met them, or some kind of note like that. I have a group that I'm on that's a virtual group, and I try to remember when I put somebody's new information, the initials of the networking group, so I know where they're from. So at least, so yeah, I mean, sometimes we have to try to be a little bit analog in our digital world to keep our sanity and to keep things organized.
It took me a while before I figured out that I'm networking not to sell something to somebody in the group that I'm meeting, but to get the connection to somebody they know. So I'm not here to sell something or tell something to Jeff, but I'm here to interest Jeff in that I solve these problems, and you probably know some people that have those problems. It took me a while to understand that's the focus of networking. What other mistakes do people typically make when they just show up in person at a networking event?
That's the number one mistake, and thank you for learning that lesson. Another big one is recruiting. I love network marketing, and multi-level businesses is really important, and they're good businesses. A lot of there's some bad information out there, and there's some people who've done it wrong in a way that scared some people run away from them because of all the people who've done it wrong. But the network group and the 30-second commercial are not where you recruit. You can recruit as a member of a group. It can be great for your recruiting if you do it properly. If you do it in a way that doesn't scare people away, that doesn't make people not want to have a lunch with you or not have a one-on-one with you. But your 30-second elevator pitch is not the place to do recruiting, because if you describe your ideal recruit, and they're also going to be my ideal recruit, so why would I introduce them to you if I recruited them? It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and you alienate all the really good networkers because they understand that doesn't work. You get recruits by meeting people and finding people who love your service and your product, and then they're the ones who become people that you recruit later after you find out they love your stuff and they want to share it with the world. That's your best recruits, are people who love the product. So you do the same thing other businesses do as a networker. You find out who else wants to meet the customers and who needs that problem solved that the product solves, not the income opportunity solves. Because everybody's offering an income opportunity, and that doesn't benefit you at all as a business person.
Jeff,
so recruiting is a big no-no. Yeah.
I was at a Toastmaster meeting many years ago, and I talked about being introduced as a speaker and having a book that says, this is why you're an expert on what you're talking about. And didn't think much of it, just a standard speech I'd given a few times. And about, I'm going to say almost a year later, I get an email, phone call, I don't know, somebody contacted me and said, hey, I wrote this book, I can't get it published, can you help me? Well, I had published one or two of my own books by then. And I said, yeah, and about 2 weeks later, he had the book in his hand. It was pretty easy to do. And he gave me a referral, and that person gave me a referral, and that person, I think I got 5 individual referrals down the line. So you talk about referrals, they happen, and they happen because you solve a problem and you solve it in an expedient manner, in a cost-effective manner. And so it's part of being a speaker, but getting the credibility of being a speaker. Now, I know you're an author and you have some books on speaking. So how do you approach a new person who has their business, they're not an author, but they're looking for credibility? Is that one of the strategies you use when you're talking to a potential as part of your speaking coaching business?
Sure, a book adds instant credibility, but a lot of people struggle to write a book per se. But if you're doing a newsletter and you've written a newsletter for a year or two, you put 24 newsletters together, and that's a book. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You take all 24 newsletters, you send them to an editor, not a proofreader, an editor, and they can turn it into a book for you. Because usually the newsletters are tips about your business. So you may have already written your book and you didn't realize it.
Now, let me go ahead and interrupt us here. We have a commercial break that I should have started about a minute ago. I didn't, but let me go ahead and get us into a commercial break, and we'll be back and talk a little bit more about networking and some other aspects of speaking.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers, discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
Randall Laughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And my guest today is speaker, author, speaking coach, entrepreneur, a number of other things, Jeff Klein. Jeff, please join us back up here on stage.
Hey, Red, thanks.
Just before the commercial break, we were talking about establishing credibility, being able to be a speaker because you have a book. But just because you have a book doesn't mean you're a good speaker. And now you have that opportunity to be a good speaker, but you need an effective presentation. And this is another area I know you excel in. So what makes a presentation effective and what makes it defective?
Well, it all goes back to what we started talking about originally. What problem do you solve? I advocate for breaking your speech down into modules, last about 8 to 10 minutes. And in that 8 to 10 minutes, you can tell a story and teach a lesson. Storytelling we've been doing that since we sat around fires. You tell the story that teaches the lesson you want to get across to the audience about the problem you solve. And you create 3 to 5, usually, sometimes 7. I actually did 9. Did the 9 laws to business speaking success. So I have a 10-minute, a 20-minute, a 30-minute, all the way up to 90 minutes talk that's all completely ready to go because I have 9 stories for the 9 laws and an opening story about why I'm doing this and how I got into it. And I can solve, and I choose which stories to tell based on the audience ahead of time. I talk to the meeting planner and help me decide what would best serve that group of people. And you modularize. That's probably not a word, but anyway, you create those. Usually 5 is the best number that works for folks. 5 problems you solve, or 5 ways you solve a particular problem within your business. The 5 tips to be a great leader, the 5 mistakes networkers make, things like that. And that becomes your talk. The instant somebody introduces you into the front of the room, you're already the expert. And you don't need to justify your existence. That's something I teach my speakers, not to spend any time justifying their existence for being there, because the meeting planner already picked you. and you don't need to justify why you're an expert once you're introduced. You put some of that in your introduction, you put some of it in your bio, but you don't need to do it you don't need to aggrandize yourself. You've already had other people do that for you. That's why you have a bio and you have an intro that are not the same thing.
Okay, so I have my bio, I have my intro, I have my modular speech. I can give a 10-minute, I can give a 45-minute. How do I find the right audience? That's always been a difficult thing, I think, for a speaker.
Right. Some of it goes back to basic advertising and marketing. You first create an avatar of who your best target is. You need to identify your person. Who's the person that you solve the problem for? Because you don't solve a problem for everybody. Nobody does. You identify your target, and then on the because if you're speaking, you've got to figure out where that person hangs out in groups. So if they're if they're a baby boomer who is closer to retirement than earlier, there's old baby boomers who probably retired, and there's younger baby boomers like me, who I'm at the end of the baby boom, which that don't get me started, because when I was in my 30s, I wasn't part of the baby boom. They changed the years on me, and now I'm a baby boomer. It's nuts, but anyway. But that's how you identify, somebody born, this age, this 20 or 30 year age range. Are they married or single? Do they own or rent? What's their income? What part of the income range are they in? Do they live in the suburbs or in the city? What do they do for fun? Identify those things. Do they have kids? Do they have grandkids? That helps you identify where to find them. They might be a PTA mom. They might be a Rotary guy. They might be somebody who belongs to a country club. Those are all places that have groups that you can go and speak to. Do they go to church and belong to a church group? That's another place you can find groups they can speak to. So there's all kinds of groups. Special interests. Are they a motorcycle rider? Are they a sailor? Do they like to do they have kids in youth sports or elite sports? Those are two different things. Some of those places have opportunities to speak. And once you figure out who they are, then you figure out where they hang out in groups to go and speak to them. And then if you're speaking to business people, there's always the association route, because every industry has association or more or multiple associations.
I noticed
so there's
that
lots of opportunities in the association range where you can go and speak as well.
I noticed when COVID hit, all of a sudden we were in the virtual world because we were no longer in person with a grip and grin and handing out business cards. Mm-hmm. I guess I was in there not even 6 months, and I got this call from a woman I know that she wanted me to speak virtually, and I get paid for it, about editors, which was her organization, that wanted to be writers. They wanted to be authors. And so sometimes they approach you, sometimes they don't. But with COVID, a lot of these organizations, I think we're getting back to where we were 5 years ago, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I'm just not seeing that same level of, when I go to a networking meeting, there's not as many of them as there used to be, and they're just not quite the same. They're similar, but what impact have you seen from the pandemic on networking and speaking?
So we definitely had to learn the difference in speaking virtually to speaking in person. When it comes to speaking for business, one thing that has really changed is it extended the sales cycle. So I can go into a room and do a 20-minute talk and offer a book or an audio download or a webinar workshop, something like that at the end of the 20 minutes, and people buy it before they leave the room. When you're virtual, it doesn't really work the same way. There's no sense of urgency to buy before to turn the computer off or switch to the next Zoom meeting that you have or what have you. So you have to change the close. You can't just say, that price is only good until we leave the room, because people, when they leave the Zoom room, they're still sitting at their desk. So there's no feeling of, so you have to extend things like that. And you have to get better at follow-up than you were when you were speaking in person. To do virtual, as using speaking to get clients takes longer virtually than it does in person. It still works. It's still an amazing, productive, useful way to get clients. It just takes longer, and it's a little bit, again, the sales cycle is longer, and you have to approach things differently, and pay more attention to lots of things. For example, a lot of people got real dependent on slideshows when they were in person, where there's a big giant screen next to you or near you that the audience can pay attention to. But when you're doing it on Zoom, the slideshow takes over the screen and you become a little talking head in the corner of the screen or on the side of the screen next to the slide. And you're no longer an influencer at that point. You're just a voiceover talking about a slide. And that's not very effective as a speaker. So you definitely have to change the way you do things if you're going to try to speak to get clients virtually.
My mentor many years ago, after I retired, he was a speaker and a very good one. But one of the little hints he gave me was you get to the location early, even before anyone else shows up. And as people start coming in, you introduce yourself. You have, the books that you're selling or whatever, and you give one or two away as a gift. But talk to each person and say, Jeff, I'm going to be speaking today on this. Do you know anybody who has a similar problem? No, it's get to know your audience. What kinds of issues are important to them? So that, I have my modular speech. I can take and give that pretty easily just about any time. But maybe I need to highlight a particular issue more than another, because I know that if I cover this one, it's probably not just that one person in the room that has that one. There's several people that have either that individual problem or they know somebody. And so it's an interesting way of accelerating your credibility before you even get up on stage, but you're also taking the responsibility of solving that person's problem in front of everyone else, even though they didn't ask you to do it. Is that
that's a huge part. Yeah, working the room ahead of time, Red, is a huge part of the business of public speaking. And for me, when I'm speaking about networking, I'm working the room and I do what I do in a networking environment, and I never ask, what do you do? I ask people, what do what's a good referral for you? What do you need next? Who are you looking to meet? And then when I'm doing my talk, I'll say, what was the first question I asked you? And they'll remember. They'll, well, you asked me who do I want to meet? And I said, exactly. How did that feel? What was different about that? So I'm interacting with the audience because I interacted with them before the meeting. And that's a big part of speaking is you have to get there early and you have to become one, you have to schmooze. You get to know the audience before you get up on stage in front of them. It's super important, and you don't get to do that in the virtual environment. You can talk to the meeting planner and you can do your research about the room, and you can try. You can maybe get a one-on-one appointment with somebody who's a member of the group, but it's not the same thing. So you have to be ready. You have to do stuff like, in my experience, this happens, or you have to use stories more about other experiences than the people that you're speaking to, because you're all it's virtual. Now there were some good things that came out of COVID. For us, it brought us international. That was our silver lining.
Yeah, I find a similar approach in helping somebody write a book. It's not the facts, the facts are the facts, but it's the stories that sell. And so when I structure I'm working with somebody writing a book, I help them structure their book in a certain way, because it makes it a whole lot easier when boom, 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 and now we have a story. And it may not be your story, it may be someone else's story, but it's applicable to the lesson learned on that particular chapter. And so I think it's important that you weave those stories.
Yeah,
They can't be long stories. They have to be short and pungent.
Right. And we have a mutual friend who's since passed, of blessed memory, our friend, Rod the Storyteller White, who wrote a whole book on storytelling, that he discovered how important it was because he started speaking. And the book came from speaking. His book on networking and his book on storytelling, he wrote both of those after he became a speaker.
Well, Jeff, we're getting toward the end of the show today. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be interested in how do they get in touch with you? Who's an ideal client for you? What can you do to tell the world that this is us and this is who we need?
Well, so first of all, we started the conversation with the two people we always want to meet: people who need speakers and people who need audiences. And by going to speakercoop.com, I do have something that will help folks who are looking to speak. I have a free download, which is my Book Yourself to Speak action plan. And it's a document that gives you some great tips on how to get in front of some of those audiences to start with, to get started. I'm a big advocate of the Nike phrase, just do it. Don't let perfect be the enemy of great. Get out there and get started, because it's the only way you get good, is by doing it over and over again. But we have a free membership at Speaker Co-op. We have very affordable ways to get a directory listing like you see on the screen there. That's an example of what our listings look like, that the people looking for speakers see. And my topic there, the Moses of Shreveport, is a story of how my dad brought 30 Soviet Jews from persecution in the Soviet Union to freedom in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he led that effort from a big idea. And so if you have your big idea, you need to tell the world about it, and we can help you do that.
Okay, Jeff, let me see if I can get your action plan for the free download up here on the screen so people can see that, because it's just a simple click on.
And if you're just listening and not watching, it's at tiny.cc/mybigidea. tiny.cc/mybigidea.
See if I can get our production engineer to put that up real quickly. And oops, didn't come. Oh, there it is. Okay. In the meantime, Jeff Klein, Jeff Klein, KLEIN speaker, SPEKER.com is one address. The other one is Speaker Co-op, speaker SPEAKER co-op COOP.com/Jeff JEFF -Klein KLEIN for our audio audiences. And we now have the action plan up there. And Jeff, I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to our next get together. I appreciate you taking the Speakers Co-op and giving me some really good, high quality guests for my show. So thank you for that. We had an excellent
You're
one.
welcome.
We had an excellent one last week, and I would welcome you to come on one of my shows, like the Corner Bookstore, as an author, and we can talk about your books and go from there and give you a little bit more free marketing, so to speak. So with that, Jeff, take care. And
thank you so much.
And this is Brad O'Loughlin getting ready to sign off of the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Very shortly, in about 20 minutes, I will have my own show called Talking Heads. I'll be talking today about resistance is not futile. A little link to the Borg on Star Trek, because we have so many different kinds of hormonal resistance in our bodies. When we're starting to look at what's going wrong and what can we do to fix it, most of the time we don't even know we have that kind of problem. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. What are some of the risk factors? What are some of the symptoms? What are some of the health concerns? But we're going to be talking about hormonal resistance and what options are there. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to sign off. Again, Brad O'Loughlin on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Bye, y'all.
Meet Red O'Loughlin, TV show host, presenter, and author.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here. I'm a TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Red has 3 weekly shows every Thursday.
I've been a TV host now with USA Global probably maybe just a little over 3 years. Probably, I know for sure, 250, 300 shows.
Join Red on the Corner Bookstore.
The Corner Bookstore is one where we talk to authors, publicists, publishers, editors, cover designers, anybody associated with the writing and authoring book production business. You have somebody in that area, I can help you with regard to getting your book done, getting it published, working with you on a cover. A lot of things I can help people with, and I have probably maybe published over 40 books for people so far.
Join Red on The Wise Ones.
On the Wise Ones, I'm looking for entrepreneurs, business owners, people who have wisdom, lessons learned over time that they can share with others. So please go to usaglobaltv.com, sign up and join me there.
Book your session on usaglobaltv.com. Join Red on Talking Heads.
On Talking Heads, I take my experience. I fell in love with chemistry many years ago, got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never practiced chemistry per se, but I did get a chance when my wife was going through chemo to get back into the chemical end of things. I started looking for cause and effect relationships. I had been working at a company doing cause and effect analysis on failures in the field on various products that we made. So I said, why not look at the cellular structure in the body? The chemicals are chemicals. They do certain things. So I take my knowledge of chemistry and research. I write about it. I speak about it. I have over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn, most of them dealing with some aspect of health or wellness. I speak on that topic quite often, and the Talking Head show is one that I concentrate my knowledge of health and wellness on in order to help people.
Red is a distinguished Toastmaster.
As a distinguished Toastmaster, I help people get their speeches developed. The presentation is something that I critique all the time with Toastmasters. It's one of those skills that I have. I can easily help you on that one. So from the position of writing, publishing, book coach, speaking, and being a keynote speaker at an event or virtually, depending on how things work out. But those are the things that I can help people with, and I have 3 shows every week here on the USA Global TV and Network, and please join me when you can. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Here are some of the books that Red has written and published. Contact Red at redolaughlin.com.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions, master the art of listening with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacqueline.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Steve Klein Art at steveklein.art.
My name is Steve Klein, born Manchester, England, 1953. My quest in my lifetime is to create artwork from my soul and the deepness within my wildest dreams and fantasies. In 2012, my art stopped when I was given too much anesthetic for a minor knee operation, and this near-death experience took me to another multidimensional world, an out-of-body experience. and I was given the gift of being blessed by an overwhelming, burning passion to become, for the very first time in my life, an artist with an eternal, passionate desire to bring my art, which I've named multidimensional, subliminal, freeform art, to the world, as only 3% recover from what I experienced, and now in my golden years want to release my cosmic, vital energy through my art to allow people to be a part of my cosmic dance.
To learn more, email roccogoodwine@gmail.com. For VIP pricing, mention USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.